title. She was cleaning tables at midnight. The little boy whispered, "Daddy, she has no one." The restaurant was nearly empty, the sound of the clock ticking above the counter echoing louder than the faint music playing through the dusty speakers. It was past midnight when she bent down to wipe the last table, her hands trembling, her eyes hollow from exhaustion. The mop leaned against her side like an old friend who'd seen too much. The manager had already left, locking the door behind him and tossing a careless turn off the lights when you're done over his shoulder. Her name was Maria, and at 34 she had become invisible to the world. Every stain she scrubbed off the table reminded her of something she had lost: her husband, her home, her pride. She paused for a moment, staring at her reflection in the glass window. Her apron was torn, her shoes soaked from hours of mopping. Outside, the street was empty except for the soft drizzle of rain dancing under the flickering streetlights. She was alone, utterly and achingly alone. If you believe that kindness and second chances can change lives, please take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who still believes in good hearts, and subscribe to Kindness to Heart. Because tonight's story might remind you how one act of compassion can rewrite a life. Maria's story had not always been painted in shades of sorrow. Once, she was a teacher. Her classroom was filled with laughter, crayons, and the smell of chalk dust. She had a husband who adored her and a little girl who ran into her arms every afternoon after school. But life has a way of unraveling quietly, thread by thread, until one day you find yourself standing in ruins, unsure of when the collapse began. It started when her husband fell ill, a rare lung disease that came without warning and devoured their savings in months. She sold her jewelry, her books, and even her wedding dress to pay for his treatment. But love, no matter how fierce, cannot bargain with fate. When he passed, Maria's world stopped spinning. Her daughter Lily was only 6. Bills piled up. The house was sold. She sent Lily to live with her sister in another city because she couldn't afford food for 2. Every night, Maria called her, pretending everything was fine. "Mommy's just working late again," she'd whisper, swallowing her tears before they could break through her voice. The truth was, she was cleaning tables and scrubbing toilets to survive. The restaurant where she worked wasn't cruel, but it wasn't kind either. The younger workers laughed at her worn-out shoes and called her auntie as if she were a relic. The customers barely noticed her. They ate, they talked, they left, and she, always the last one, wiped away their crumbs, their spills, and their memories, each one a silent reminder that she belonged to no one's world anymore. That night, though, something was different. A father and his little boy were the only customers left. The man looked tired, dressed in a simple suit, his laptop open beside a half-finished cup of coffee. The boy, no older than 7, had curly brown hair and a face so innocent it almost glowed. He kept watching Maria as she worked, his big eyes following her every move. Maria noticed, smiling faintly, though she didn't say a word. She was used to people looking at her with pity or indifference, but not curiosity. When she reached their table to wipe down the next one nearby, the boy whispered something to his father. The man smiled tiredly, gave his son a gentle nod, and went back to typing. But the boy kept staring, his eyes now glistening with something else: sadness. Hours passed. The clock struck 1. The boy had fallen asleep on the booth seat, his small head resting on his father's arm. Maria turned off the last of the lights except the one above their table. She hesitated before approaching, afraid she might disturb them. But before she could speak, the man looked up. "You've had a long day, haven't you?" he asked softly. Maria froze. People didn't usually speak to her that way, with warmth. She nodded, unsure how to reply. "It's fine," she murmured. "Just part of the job." He studied her for a moment. "You remind me of someone I used to know," he said quietly. "Someone who worked harder than she ever should have." Maria tried to smile, but her lips trembled. "Sometimes, that's the only choice we have." He nodded thoughtfully, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small card. I own a small cafe on Elm Street, he said. We're short on good people. If you're ever looking for something better than this, come by. Maria's eyes widened, disbelief flickering in them. I don't have experience beyond this kind of work anymore, she whispered. The man chuckled softly. Experience can be taught. Heart can't. You have heart. Before she could thank him, the boy stirred awake, rubbing his eyes. Then, in the quietest, most fragile voice, he looked up at his father and whispered, Daddy, she has no one. The words pierced through the air like a soft arrow, finding their way into Maria's chest. She froze, unable to speak, her throat tightening. The boy didn't mean to hurt her, he was only telling the truth he saw. The father gently hushed him, embarrassed, but Maria's tears came anyway. It's okay, she said, smiling through them. He's right, but maybe one day, that will change. The man didn't say anything more. He simply nodded, left a generous tip on the table, and carried his sleeping son out into the rain. But before leaving, he looked back once, just once, with a kind of look that said he'd remember her. That night, Maria cried harder than she had in months. Not because of pain, but because for the first time, someone had truly seen her. She wasn't invisible anymore. The next morning, after a restless sleep in her tiny rented room, she found herself staring at the business card on her table. Elliot's Corner Cafe, it read, followed by a phone number. She almost threw it away. Hope, she had learned, was dangerous. It raised you up only to drop you harder. But something in that boy's voice, she has no one, echoed in her mind. She wanted to change that truth, so she called. When she arrived at the cafe, Elliot, the same man from last night, was there, smiling. I was hoping you'd come, he said. The cafe smelled of cinnamon and freshly baked bread. The sunlight streamed through large windows, touching everything with warmth. There were flowers on every table, laughter in every corner, and a small play area near the counter for children. It felt alive, like a place that still believed in good things. Elliot handed her an apron and said, Let's start fresh. Weeks turned into months. Maria learned the art of making coffee, greeting customers with genuine smiles, and arranging flowers by the window every morning. The other workers welcomed her with kindness, and the boy, Liam, became her little shadow. He'd draw her pictures, bring her cookies from home, and ask her stories about her life before the restaurant. Slowly, she began to feel something she hadn't felt in years. Belonging. She saved every penny she could, hoping to bring her daughter back home soon. But life, though kinder now, was still heavy. Some nights she still cried quietly, wondering if Lily would recognize her when they met again. But one Sunday afternoon, that question was answered in the most unexpected way. Elliot had organized a small charity event at the cafe, a fundraiser for single mothers. He asked Maria to share her story. She hesitated, but when she stood before the small crowd, her voice trembled with truth. She spoke of love, loss, struggle, and how a little boy's innocent words had changed her path. By the end, everyone was in tears. What Maria didn't expect was what happened next. A woman approached her with a shy smile. A woman who turned out to be a teacher at the same school where Lily studied. She had heard of Maria through her sister, and promised to help arrange a reunion. Within 2 weeks, Maria stood at the train station, trembling with anticipation. And when the train doors opened, a small girl with a pink backpack ran into her arms. "Mommy!" Lily cried, her voice muffled against her chest. "I missed you so much!" Maria held her tighter than she ever had before, breathing in the scent of her daughter's hair. For the first time in years, the ache in her chest softened. She wasn't alone anymore. Elliot and Liam stood at a distance, watching the reunion with tears in their eyes. Liam smiled and whispered, "Daddy, I told you she'd find someone." And in that moment, everything came full circle. The woman who was cleaning tables at midnight now had a home, a family, and hope, because someone had seen her when no one else did. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness to Heart. Your support helps us share more stories of compassion, courage, and humanity. Before you go, tell us in the comments, Have you ever met someone whose kindness changed your life forever? Sometimes one small act, a word, a glance, a helping hand, is all it takes to turn someone's midnight into morning.